Friends, we don't believe that men has come from monkeys. God has created men.
Creationism versus evolutionism, challenging fundamentalists over Darwin's theory of origination during the Scopes trial, by Ayyaswamy and Kulkarni. The Scopes monkey trial was one of the most controversial yet influential trials in history. Taking place in Dayton, Tennessee, the trial became a battle between modernists and traditionalists to see who would take the stage for years to come. In May of 1925, John Scopes was convicted for teaching evolution to his high school students, resulting in a heated trial debating creationism and evolutionism. Though disputable ideas spread throughout the entire nation, slowing down the anti-evolution movement set to pass laws banning evolution in all the states. John Scopes in the world-famous Scopes monkey trial during 20th century America broke religious, legal, and social barriers by questioning the words of the Bible, testing the constitutionality of Tennessee's Butler Act, and surpassing the public's opposition to his claim. Through these actions, Scopes ultimately contributed towards the shift from theology to evolutionism in modern education.
As early as religion originated itself, a majority of mankind believed in creatures and people deriving from higher forms of supremacy or God. As modern thought, science, and technology developed, scientists sought to find a more evidence-based theory of how man came to be. In 1859, Charles Darwin, an English naturalist, published his book on the origin of species, which is considered to be the foundation for evolutionary biology. His theory proposed the idea of natural selection, where man and monkeys once had common ancestors and were developed over several generations to become what they are today. This theory quickly received criticism and neglect by the majority of the public, as well as debates and discussions amongst churches and experts alike. Several years later, America transitioned into a period of cultural advancement paired with extreme social unrest and reaction in the 1920s. As the theory of Darwinism became more widely known in America, it began clashing with the religion-rooted beliefs of a fundamentalist Christian community. Religious leaders in the U.S., such as renowned William Jennings Bryan, a three-time presidential candidate, assumed that evolutionism was a threat to religion and formed campaigns forbidding the teaching of evolution in schools. "If we have to give up either religion or education," he once said, "we should give up education." Bryan and his followers believed in the literal meaning of the Bible, and thus that evolutionism was contradicting the words of the Holy Book. By 1925, Bryan's team had succeeded in getting bills proposed in 15 different states relating to the banning of evolution. That March, the state of Tennessee passed the Butler Act, a law prohibiting the teaching of the evolution theory in all the universities, normals, and all other public schools of Tennessee, ultimately forbidding teachers from teaching Darwin's theory of evolution in schools. As historian Lawrence Levine said about the Butler Act,
"It was a law symbolizing who was right, who was legitimate. Religion was legitimate. Darwin was not legitimate in the state of Tennessee."
On May 5th of that same year, just 2 months after the approval of the Butler Act, John T. Scopes, a high school substitute teacher, was convicted for teaching evolution to his students from the textbook Hunter's Civic Biology. Later that month, the American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU, announced their free support and help for any Tennessee teacher willing to challenge the Butler Act and take it to court. George Raplaya, a businessman from Dayton, decided to take up the ACLU's proposal and met with leaders from a town at a drugstore to plan a trial. Calling John Scopes to the drugstore, Raplaya asked him if he wanted to change the Butler Act and take the case to court. Scopes agreed, and in a matter of a few weeks, a dynamic, compelling group took the stage as an opposition to the law.
On July 10th, the first day of the trial, both the defense and prosecution sides gathered in the Rhea County Courthouse in Dayton, Tennessee. Siding with John Scopes for the defense was Clarence Darrow, Arthur Garfield Hayes, and Dudley Field Malone, with their case backed up by the ACLU. The prosecution included William Jennings Bryan, A.T. Stewart, and Ben B. McKenzie. Outside of the courtroom, a carnival-like atmosphere covered Dayton, with spectators from near and far coming to witness this rare and historical event. Signs saying "Read your Bible" were hung on the walls, and chimpanzees did performances and shows on the streets. As Darrow recalled, hot dog booths and fruit peddlers and ice cream vendors and sandwich sellers had sprung into existence. Back in the courtroom, the defense team planned to take the case to a higher court to prove it was unconstitutional. To do this, they would contradict people's beliefs to interpret the Bible as literal. As Darrow famously said, the Bible became the yardstick to measure every man's intellect, to measure every man's intelligence, to measure every man's learning. On the other side, Bryan argued that evolution was taking away people's belief in God and therefore should not be taught in school. He claimed that if evolution wins, Christianity goes. His argument clearly had the majority of the public's support, proving to be another challenge for the defense team to overcome. Journalist H.L. Mencken wrote, "There is no mistaking which of the two, Darrow or Bryan, has the crowd. Bryan has been oozing around the country since his first day here, and so making unanimity doubly unanimous." Towards the end of the trial, the defense played an incredible move, one that will be remembered forever as a part of the famous Scopes trial. Darrow unexpectedly called Bryan to the stand as a witness. This move was to put Bryan on point for only taking some of the Bible as literal and some as not. Darrow was not able to finish interrogating Bryan that day, but he successfully shattered Bryan and his reputation before the huge crowd gathered. As H.L. Mencken remembered and wrote, "The Bryan I shall remember is the Bryan of his last weeks on earth. Broken, furious, and infinitely pathetic. He was winning a battle that would make him forever infamous wherever enlightened men remembered it and him." On July 21st, Darrow pleaded the jury to give a verdict of guilty, so Bryan would not be able to deliver his closing speech, and Darrow would be able to appeal the case to a higher court. Scopes was fined $100, and the trial was over.
Though John Scopes was found guilty, the lasting impact left by the trial for several generations to come greatly outweighed the guilty verdict, which was later overturned in the Court of Appeals. Breaking religious, legal, and social barriers, Scopes provided the public a fresh perspective on where the balance between religion and science stands when education is at stake. Broadcasted nationwide, the trial became a known fact, even inspiring films to be made about it. The publicity kept the trial's legacy intact for several decades, resulting in people remembering it today. Proving to be the pioneer in this challenge, the Scopes trial sparked many more debates about evolution for years to come. The trial is regarded as a milestone of how evolution came to be accepted and has also brought a clearer picture to the idea of religion and its effects on science and advancing education. Its impact on the religion-promoting southern states greatly subdued the anti-evolution movements that were taking place across the U.S. Of the 15 states that had proposed anti-evolutionism laws, 13 of them were declined following the trial. 42 years after the trial, the Butler Act was finally repealed. In 1968, after the Epperson v. Arkansas trial, the laws banning evolution were declared unconstitutional across the entire nation by the Supreme Court. Even then, fundamentalists desired to have creationism taught alongside evolution in schools. This provoked other trials, such as the Edwards v. Aguilar case in 1987, where the Supreme Court declared the teaching of creationism illegal in all public schools throughout the nation. The Scopes monkey trial was the first ever formal major dispute regarding theistic creation. However, the controversy regarding evolution still exists today. As Professor Douglas Linder said, 75 years later, this trial has stood the test of time.
Scopes debated the literal meaning of the Bible during a time where the majority of the public in America practiced Christianity and were close-minded toward questioning the words of the Holy Book. Through challenging the Butler Act, Darrow and his team created a powerful response to a wrongful law, while also overcoming opposition from the public.
This historical, eventful, and extraordinarily impressive trial conquered so many hurdles during its time, and will continue to inspire future generations to support the growth of man's intellect as science and education continues to advance.